Well, welcome back to Hillbilly Shipwright. This is where we're building the boats that comes in the Become a Shipwright of Old series here from Model Shipways. Links are in the description, or at least if the link's not there, the website is there. All you got to do is type it into your search for your web browser and it'll bring them up. We are currently working on this one, the second boat in the build. And that is the Norwegian Sailing Pram. And it is a 1/12 scale kit. And in the last video, we finished up pretty much the boat, except for the masts and the boom and all that stuff, and the sail, which is yet to come. So we managed to get our oar locks and oar lock plates on, and the stay plates and the little towing eyelet there on the bow transom. So all that's done, and we built our stand, put a finish on it, and we mounted the boat. And I do recommend gluing the boat down to the stand so that it doesn't fall off. As you can see, it sits rather high, so we don't want to lose anything in the process. So we are ready to start working on the mast, and that is going to be step 42. So let's get over to the bench here and take a look at step 42. Okay, step 42. There are two methods of making masts and spars for models. One is to simply shape a length of dowel. The other is to shape the spar from a square section length of wood, just like a real boat builder. You will have the opportunity to try both methods. The first method is one most model kit makers present. Try both methods and see which works better for you. Take a 1/4 inch diameter length of dowel and cut off a 10-inch actual length. Mark off a 1-inch actual length for the lower end and 3 1/8 inch at the upper end. These delineate the tapered parts for the mast, and you can refer to the spar plans on page 5. Now what I've done is I've went to the printer and made a copy of page 5. So we have page 5 here. At the top here we have our mast, and it shows where holes are supposed to be drilled. And then we do have our boom, which is the bottom spar, and we have our gaff, which is the upper spar, and these two hold the sail. One of which has a gooseneck there. The boom has the little gooseneck on it there, which we will have to attach. So we need to take a look at our parts. The first part, of course, that we're going to be making is going to be the boom. And this is what Model Shipways has provided for us. And that is our mast. And it comes in 2 pieces. So what they want us to do is to cut these 2 pieces out and glue them together in order to get the right diameter, so to speak, to start working on getting the wood moved down to the right diameter. So we'll take a look at what they provided us here. So we're supposed to glue these 2 together. And then we're supposed to work it down into something round. And just by looking at it here, I can tell you that we have somewhat of an issue. I'm going to use my digital calipers here. With both pieces together, that is a 0.197 inch. And then if we measure this way, 0.14. So there's 0.05 of an inch difference. So that's not going to really come out round. I mean, with a lot of work, yes, it can. However, if we look at it really close, they have used the laser here to put the holes in. And if I line those holes up where we can see through them, the ends aren't truly matched. Well, that's okay. You can sand that off. So that's kind of the first thing here. So let's look at it again. 0.143 of an inch. We can go to millimeter if you like. It's 3.63 millimeter. Sometimes it's easier to work in millimeters. It doesn't really matter as long as you know basically what you've got going on. So if I take a measurement on the plans, which is supposed to be 1:1, just inside the black line there, it is 4.08 millimeters. And at the widest part, well, I don't know if you can see that, but we are considerably less than that. 3.32. So even if I do use these, it's not going to be right. So the maximum diameter where this part is going to go into the boat is just under 3 millimeters. Well, 2.86. So what I need to do is I'm going to measure the hole. Let me see where our mast goes. I probably should remove our tiller and rudder to get this measurement. I'm going to try to get down in here and give it a little measurement here. It's not exact, but it'll get us closer. So yeah, that's 3.56 of a millimeter, and we got 3.4 something. So we already know that unfinished, there's no way that mast is going to be large enough to actually fit where our mast is supposed to sit. Fit and sit. So that's kind of a problem for us there. So what they provide us in the kit to make our mast out of, if we're not going to use these pieces, which I really wanted to try this, but I don't see any sense in spending a lot of time on something that we're just not going to be able to get close to accurate with. And it would be quite thin by the time we've got it whittled down to the right diameter. So they do give us a 1/4 inch dowel here. So what is the difference in size? Let's say we're not going to use those pieces. I'm not going to use them. I imagine you can do it, but let's see here what we got again. 3.7, roughly 3.7. And for a 1/4 inch dowel, you can probably tell that's a lot of wood to remove. A lot of wood to remove. So I'm lucky enough to have a woodcraft store in Chattanooga, which is not far from where I am at in northern Georgia. So I bought some dowels. And these are the 1/8 inch and 3/16. So it's a 1/16 under the 1/4 inch dowel that's provided in the kit there, which means that'll be less material for us to remove. So let's see how close we are with 3/16 of an inch. So we were looking at, yeah, roughly 3.7. And we're so much closer here. So I'm going to go with the 3/16 inch dowel. Yeah. And that's because we'll have less wood that we're going to have to remove versus the 1/4 inch that came in the kit. So set that out of the way there. So I've decided I'm going to go with dowel to make my mast. And I'm also going to go with dowels to make the boom and the gaff. And let's look at those so that we know why I have decided to do that. So here's the gaff. Now what they've done is they went ahead and put the holes in it for us with the laser. However, if we look at the end of the gaff up here, that hole is right up into the edge there. So by the time we've, shaped this piece of wood here down so that it'll be round and tapered the way it's supposed to be, we're going to be cutting into the hole that was actually already cut almost through the side right there, the edge. So that's not going to work. And then for our boom here, they have already laser cut where we have to put some eyelets in, or some loops. And this hole right here, pretty much the same thing. It's way off to the side there. Now the slot is center, but the hole is not where it needs to be. If we look at our plans here, we can clearly see that that hole is supposed to be center. So that's not going to work for me. And of course, we've already talked about the gaff. That's not going to work either. Curiously enough, let's see if we can get a measurement here on the boom. So we're starting off with a raw measurement there before we start shaping on the boom at 2.39 millimeters. And then if we look at our boom on the schematic here, if you can tell, that would be slightly undersized, and that's before we start shaping it. So it's going to get real thin real quick. And we have the same problem here with the gaff. I imagine when they fed these measurements in the computer, it's this size. And then with the laser cutting, of course, obviously they cut on the line. And we don't have any material left, really, to work with. So that's kind of a problem. So the 1/8 inch dowels is going to work well for us, I think. I mean, if you look at it directly on, if I can get you to look, if I get the camera lined up where you can see what I'm talking about, we are actually just barely inside the actual line on our plan here for our 1/8 inch dowel. So we're going to go with 1/8 inch dowels instead of using the parts in the kit. Now I think we'll be all right with the gooseneck. We will cut that out and get the char off of it, and we'll use that. And if for some reason that doesn't work out for us, we will. There's plenty of wood around here. We can we can make one if we need to. So that's what we're going to be doing. And I'm really disappointed that we didn't get to try the 4 square to 8 square shaving down and then sanding it round. but I don't see any sense in spending a lot of time on something that we are never going to be able to use. It's just not going to work for us. And by the time we get the mast down to something round, it's going to be way too small for the where the mast sits on the boat. So now, with that said, you do need a straight piece of dowel. So I went through the packs and found two fairly straight pieces of dowel. And if we roll them on our mat, we can see that they're not wobbling. Too bad, anyway. So they should be fine. By the time we get them sanded and everything, I mean, with my whittling skills, it's probably not going to be straight anyway, even if we started out straight. So, but we're going to get it as close to there as possible. So that's what we're going to use. So they do tell us if we are gluing these up, we go and we make up this board here, which is our spar shaping jig. Now I've put a piece of tape on it here just to keep everything into place. And I have cemented in the one down here where the hook is. Now I made this up while we were doing the planking and all that, so there are parts of the kit that you can actually work on. And all it is it's a strip of wood here with the V-blocks, all designed to hold your wooden dowel so that you can shape the taper, and you just rotate it around and get your taper shaved off or sanded off. Now in the kit, it only came with these blocks here, 1, 2, 3, 4 V blocks, the stop block, and the hook on the end for your bench, so that you can hook it onto the bench without it moving, and that way you can sand or shave or do whatever it is that you need to without it sliding off the end there, or without the jig moving, which is a nice little design. Works good, I guess. We'll find that out. However, in my kit, it did not come with this block here, so I had to make a block out of some of the scrap edges of the wooden frets that came in the kit in order to get the full length there. So we need 10 inches to start off with. So I'm going to go ahead and measure it out. Well, before I measure it out, I think the best thing to do, you always want to start with a square end. So I am going to go ahead and square it off. I'm just going to cut it and make sure that it's square on the end and we don't have any chips or anything. And this is the 3/16. Yes, 3/16 dowel. So I'm going to use that instead of the 1/4 inch that came in the kit. So in order to keep me from getting confused, I'm going to remove all the stuff that I'm not using. And I'm going to go ahead and cut our gooseneck out. So I've went ahead and cut us a 10-inch length here. Right there's our 10-inch. And it calls for us to mark it at 1 inch from the bottom. So that's going to be the bottom of our mast. And then it should be 3 inches and 1/8. Which on my ruler here, it's, 4 seconds. But that's the 1/8 there, so it's 3 1/8. And what this does is this tells us where our taper needs to be. I'm just going to use a piece of cardstock here. Put it around the mast so I can mark it all the way around. Like so. So no matter which side I'm working on, as if a round piece has a side. But anyway, I'll know where our taper's supposed to stop. I'm going to mark them both. Now these dowels are hardwood dowels. This is not basswood. I'm not sure what kind of wood it is. It's just a hardwood of some kind. I don't think the package tells me what it's made out of. Dowel pack. I don't see it on there. Just take my word for it. It's hard. it's not like the basswood, which is very soft. So we don't have to worry too much about making an indentation in the wood when we draw on it with a pencil. And then later on, if we haven't sanded it away, if we have any lines left on there, you can always use an eraser to clean it up. But that shouldn't be an issue. So I will tell you this, on this dowel, you may be able to see there is a machine line on it there, which we're not going to worry about really, because by the time we're done, we're going to be reducing this considerable anyway. Well, not considerable compared to the 1/4 inch, but we'll be removing some of the diameter. So that should all come out nice and round for us. Okay, so I went ahead and put some masking tape on it there. You can see my line. And then I put the masking tape underneath the line there. And then the line towards the end that we're going to be tapering, I put the tape on the above it. So just so that I can see it better to start our taper. So we need to actually know what we're tapering it down to. So I am going to set my calipers here at the desired diameter. So I'm going to start working on the top of the mast first. Now it doesn't matter, you can start wherever you want. I'll just lock my calipers in so I'll know when I'm getting close. And I don't need it on for that, so we'll just turn it off. So that's how much we're going to reduce it by. As you can see, it's really not that much, all things considered. Now, there are different ways of doing this. We can trim it with a knife, or we can use a plane, or we can just use sandpaper. This is 150 grit, I think. We could probably use that to get it. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we're removing the same amount all the way around. Now this is where they talk about it being easier to start off with a square piece, which is 4-sided, and then you will cut the corners off, which will make it 8-sided, and then you'll cut, if it's 8-sided, you know, you've got all those corners around it, and you cut those corners, and then you sand it, you know, smooth or circular, cylindrical. Sand it into a round piece. So, yeah, I've never made a mask before, so maybe we can shave it. So, what's the best way to shave it? I think I have a spoke shave. So I do have a spoke shave. It came in the same kit that my sanding block came in, although this kit I've had for decades, and I don't think they offer it with the sanding block anymore. I don't think they even offer it with the spoke shave. I don't know. I haven't checked, but this may be the way to go. I don't know. Now, if I mess this up, that's not a problem because we have a whole pack of dowels. We can start over. So the way I'm going to use it, I'm going to use it, since this is a hardwood, I want to have a little slicing motion here to help remove material, just like that. I'm going to turn it upright. So I'm kind of doing 4 corners here, 4 flats. Didn't get as much as I thought I did there. And one more right here. Now you can see I'm not starting all the way back here where the taper ends. I'm just doing it right there, a little up from it. I'm going back where it's still round. I'm catching the areas where we didn't trim it. Well, kind of got myself there. Ideally, you're supposed to use, equal pressure on both ends there. So we've started our taper. So I started here. Now I'm going to move down and run the taper again across all of those. Probably right about here, just ahead of this block. It's supposed to be a gradual taper, so it's kind of where we're going with this. By getting rid of the majority of the wood that we need to remove, by shaving it, it'll be less sanding for us. So now we want to check and see where we're going with it. We have a lot more to remove, so it's not that big of a deal. So now I'm going to move on down. What I'm doing is starting the taper. I never claimed to be a master at this. That's why we're building these boats, so that we can learn the techniques that we're going to need to Not perfectly round, of course, but that's okay. So now I can come in and start my sanding, and get that out of the way there. And somebody's cringing on how I'm doing this, but it's okay.
Imagine before long I'm going to be right down into the stop block there. So you can see it's coming out pretty uniform. So it's kind of what we want. We want to be uniform there. Now you can spin this in a drill and run your paper back and forth and all that. I think that takes a long time though. I've tried stuff like that before. And you're not removing a tremendous amount of wood in a short period of time. So I'm only about halfway where I need to go. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to hit it again with the spoke shave and keep working the taper just like we've been doing. Do have to be careful when you get to the end there because your spoke shave will fall off the end there and you'll get a real sharp cut. Maybe a little bit more than what I wanted to take, but well, since we have a long way to go, when we get down really close to about our diameter, we will just go sandpaper only so that we're not putting a flat spot on our mast that we don't want. The other thing I need to mention, when you're choosing your dowel, do look at the grain and make sure that it's got as straight a grain as you can possibly get out of the selection of dowels that you have, because if it has some cross grain, when you're cutting it, it may dig in and chip out, and you don't want that. Now, if you're just sanding, you don't need to really worry about that too much. So I'm going to keep working on this and get it down close, and then we're going to start to remove the diameter all the way around. So as you can see, I've got the taper. I've reduced it considerably. Now it's not exactly where it needs to be, but that's okay. As you can see, we still have a little bit more to go there, but we still have to reduce the body of the mast. So from here on out, we're just going to sand it. And we will be using our plans here to put the mast on it and to check our progress. As you can see, this mast is 10 inches long. However, the plans is a little bit short. It's not 10 inches. But that's all right. A little bit here, a little bit there. We'll be fine. Yeah, so that's the plan. I can go ahead and remove the tape now. We won't be needing that anymore. And we're just going to keep reducing the mast diameter until we get it down to match the taper in the diameter right on the plans. The only thing we really need to be careful of is to make sure that we don't reduce the base of the mast more than the hole that's in the mast plate on our actual pram there. That way we get a nice snug fit. There's not a lot of wood in there at the bottom of the pram to hold the mast, so we need to make sure that we're careful when we go to do that. So what I'll do is I will take the 150, and this is aluminum oxide sandpaper. You can use the sandpaper that comes in the kit, but that's not, you know. And by using it, pinching it in my fingers here, we'll be able to remove quite a bit of wood here and keep from sanding a flat spot, because we do want our mast to come out nice and round. And again, you can chuck this up in a drill and do it that way, but as you can see, I'm removing quite a bit of wood, so I don't want to get too carried away here. So we'll go a few strokes this direction, and we don't want to forget about the lower section of our mast here. Do want the center section to come out relatively even. And I say relative because I'm sure it's not going to be perfectly even. But like the book says, if it looks right, it is right. And if you check your progress, the end should come out to be fairly round. If it's a little bit oblong, then you need to kind of change your pressure. I haven't finished up the end of it there, but that's okay because we still have got plenty of room to trim that out. So we'll do a little bit of sanding. We'll check it against our plans, and then before you know it, we're going to be right where we want to be. At least I hope so. So I'm going to continue sanding this down and get it to look like a mast. So here we are. I've got it sanded down where I want it. We can just take a look at the profile on our schematic here, and it matches up pretty good. Now the only thing I will say is that my taper on the end is not quite as long as what's on the drawing, but it being the base of the mast, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but there's something that we need to look at because of that. And that is where the mast goes. If you reduce this, the base of the mast, too much, it's going to be too small to fit right there, because that hole is a specific size in our mast step. That's what they call this piece here, and it's laser cut, so you can't make it any smaller. And we do need just a little bit of resistance, so when we go to glue this into place, it'll actually stand for us and give time for the glue to set up before we try to do our rigging. Otherwise, we're not going to get our mast straight. So I decided to stop the sanding at that point right there. So the next one I'm going to taper. It's going to be the boom, and then I'm going to do the gaff, and I'll be making these out of the 1/8 inch dowel rod, and it's very close to what we need. I still have my calipers here set at millimeter, so just under 3 millimeters, and you can see it's really close to what we need. So I'm not going to have to do a whole lot of sanding there because it's 3.39, and this is really close to 3 millimeters. Our boom is actually a little bit thicker, right at 3 or so. So yeah, the only thing I'm going to have to worry about is the tapers. And just by sanding it and getting a good finish on it, it'll be the right diameter. So we'll be good there. So I'm going to go ahead and do these and get this out of the way. And that way we can concentrate on drilling and doing all the holes and everything like that. All right, so I went ahead and made our gaff here. Now this is the spar that holds the top of the sail. And we do have a slight taper on either end. A little bit larger in the middle. Get this turned around here where you can see it maybe. So that's actually really good. I'm happy with that. And then we have the part of our boom here that has the gooseneck that goes on it. Mine. Yeah, okay. Looks good. Now there is a difference here because this is round, slightly tapering off here, but since it is round and not square like the kit part would have been, the gooseneck, the hook that goes on it there, is not going to set up flush like we want it to. We're going to leave a gap on either side, as you can see there. You know, you're putting a flat surface against a round surface, and you're not really getting what you want. So we're going to fix that because we used a round dowel. We need to actually come in and we need to put a we're going to put a little round groove in our gooseneck here. I'm just using a round file to do that, and I'm shaking the camera, I know. Just getting us started there. See how we look. That's actually pretty close to center. That's not too bad. But what you can do is we filed it this way. Now we're going to flip it over this way and file it this way. And I'm filing on a scrap piece of, well, it happens to be plywood, but that's fine. It's just waste anyway. So as you can see, we've got our groove started there. So the whole idea is going to be that it's going to fit around, well, I've got it too far back here. Should be a little slight bit of a extension there. So we're going to close this up by filing that down. I might have just a little bit of hook left or a little bit of shoulder there, but I think we can get rid of most of that. And we're going to get rid of it by filing this in. So now that I've got it started, I could probably hold it. Yeah, that's doing much better. So we're going to put this half moon in, or quarter moon, or crescent moon, or some kind of moon. And maybe I won't shake the table if I'm not leaning on it. Oh yeah, see, that's working really nice. Working really nice. I'm liking it. So I'm going to get it a little bit deeper. That should close all that up for us. The only other thing is I think I need to probably move this hole here down just a little bit. Once I get this fit, I'll do that. I'll move that down. And if we have anything standing proud, we'll just sand it off smooth there. It's kind of where we're going with this. Okay, as you can see, I've got our little groove, or whatever you want to call it. It is in place there. So now we need to glue this up. So I'm using our pattern here, or our print, to kind of get our location. That's probably way too much glue. I'm going to end up with more stuff squeezing out. That's all right. There we go. Where's my tweezers? Can I do this with you guys watching? Probably gluing it to the paper. No, we didn't. I don't want it sliding around. I just want to press it into place here. Just hold it for a few seconds. And it'll be stuck forever. Before our glue dries, we'll double check. I mean, it's not a really critical dimension, but you do see that the boom is a little bit longer than the gooseneck is. So that's kind of where we need to be there. Somewhere I have a brush. We can go ahead and clean this up. Not too worried about the glue in the hole there. We'll re-drill it if we need to, which we probably will. Well, while we're here, we're probably going to just have to make that hole a little bit bigger anyway. There's not much room left in there. So, I mean, that's okay. That's all right. Now the other thing I'm concerned about is it going to go around our mast. And yes, we've got all kinds of room, so we're in good shape there. All right, so I got to let this dry. Okay, so we need to finish our boom here. A couple of things. One of which is that this inner surface here, opposite of our gooseneck, or the hook here, should be flat. So we are going to put us a little flat there. So I'm just going to hold this vertical. I've got a little block here that helps raise everything up off the cutting mat. That way we can get us a flat started here. So I'm being careful not to cut up into the gooseneck. I'm shaking the camera, aren't I? Sorry about that. So that's working pretty good. I do need to get it even all the way towards the end of the boom there. So that looks nice. dang fine job there. All right, so we do have to do a transition here. We're going to do that with a round file. Because, as you remember, we in order to glue this on to the round surface there, we kind of filed a little trough in it there. I think it's probably the best way to describe that as trough. So we also need to get it to match the boom now that it's dry, or closely anyway. So we're going to sand that down. This side here is a little bit more proud. So I'm going to sand that down. And in real life, I have seen them where they're flat back here where the gooseneck is. So we're not going to really worry about it too much. So that's in good shape there, I think. So kind of looks like to me, one of the things we need to do is take off this edge. And I'll get my flexible sanding stick there to kind of round everything off. So we also need to round off the edges here of our gooseneck. I don't know if it's going to be aggressive enough for us, but we'll try it. It's working. A little bit more difficult getting into the turn here, but you can always use your round file. Just to cut it. That'll work faster. And then come in and sand it. Get it nice and smooth there. The other part we need to do, we need to get inside there. Kind of round all that off right there. Maybe I can get in here with a... I may have to go to a piece of sandpaper here. Or a sanding stick. I gotta... Let's see. Aha! So this is a sanding point for plastic models. Oh yeah, that's better. Even better than the file. Yeah, that's good. We'll do the back side too. Well, not really backside, the bottom. Yeah. We'll cut this sharp edge out too. Right there. I'm going to support it with my finger because the gooseneck is the basswood, which we have broken before, and we don't want to do that. Don't want to break it. Because if we do, we'll just be, you know, gluing everything back up again. So I'm going to put a clear finish on this. So we're going to want to make sure that everything is sanded nicely here. Eliminate all fuzzies. Now, one thing that I did discover, I don't know if you're aware or not, but a lot of cabinet makers and woodworkers use scrapers. And it just so happens in plastic modeling, we also use scrapers. To clean up parts. So I thought I'd try my scraper on the boom here. Now this is for plastic models there. But we have different radiuses and stuff, and that's really nice. Because we can scrape the boom down here and get rid of all the fuzzies. And the good thing about a scraper is it's not really compacting or pressing in and tearing fibers. It's more like shearing them off. And because of that, I'm hoping... Now, this is hardwood, though. It's not the basswood. Well, I mean, except for the gooseneck. That's basswood. But anyway, I'm hoping that by scraping it down, we have very little fiber swelling and sticking up and everything where we have to come back and do another sanding, but it seems to work really good. I think it's something I'm going to be doing for other masts and spars and booms and gaffs and yards and you name it. that, using the scraper on it because it really leaves us a nice finish. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so that is pretty much done. Almost. I got a little bit of char left right there. See if I can get that out. Yeah, that's better. May need something more aggressive there. I didn't want to clean everything up because I wasn't sure about the dimensions here. And what it took to get everything to go together. But now that we've got it together, well, we put this piece together anyway. So I still may need to drill this hole out right here. So I'll get that off camera. Just open it up with a drill bit and a pin vise. So we do have some holes that we need to drill. We need to drill some holes and make some eyelets and stuff like that for these and for our mast. So we have to figure that out first. Okay, so when I was doing our mast here, I did write down in millimeters what I measured these out at on the ends, and then before the tapers. And I just marked them on there so I could use my my calipers here and check my work as I was sanding, which is, I guess it's a good idea, maybe. We don't need that anymore. So I'm going to erase that. Excuse me, still coughing up dust. Coincidentally, when you're sanding your mast, you might want to go outside to do that, or if you have a garage or some other a dirty space, because it does create a lot of dust, and more so than when we were actually building the hull and everything. I mean, it was just a lot of dust. To give you an example, excuse me, still choking on dust. Give you an example. This is the 3/16 inch dowel there, and this is our mast. You can probably tell that there is a significant reduction there. Most of which, what little bit of shaving that we did do, most of the rest of the reduction was all in sanding. So make sure that you have a place to go where it's not raining, hopefully, to do your sanding. So what we need to do now is we need to figure this out. And that is doing all of the holes that we need to in our mast. So if we look at the mast blank that they had for us, they had two holes drilled in them there, you know, I should say a hole drilled in the two pieces. That makes more sense, which is not center. And I believe this to be the hole on our plans right here. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm saying. There we go. It does tell us drill hole for the halyard block. Now the halyard is the haul line that hauls the yard or the gaff that holds the top of the sail. So just looking at this, that would be that hole. So this would be either the fore or the aft side of the mast. Now since we made ours out of a dowel, we don't have that hole. So we're going to have to put that hole in. Now what they don't tell us here in this schematic that we have is that we're actually supposed to do two holes. Zoom back out. And the reason why here we go. So this is the top of the mast. Let me get it oriented so you can see. That's the top of the mast. The top hole is the one that is already in the or was in the laser cut part, and we do not have that hole on our mast. We're going to have to drill that hole. Then there's a second hole below it, and the reason why is because this is supposed to be a sheave or a block, which is nothing more than a pulley that the halyard line, or what do you call it? The rope goes through. So the second hole in the bottom just simulates the fact that there is a sheave in there. There's no line that goes through the bottom hole. So we're going to have to do that. And they do give us some, the other thing is we're going to look for the dimensions for where to put these bolts that holds the stay plates on the mast. So, somewhere in here, okay. They were talking about gluing up the mast and then drilling the holes before shaping it. Well, we didn't do that. We didn't glue this up because we made ours out of a dowel. So there are 4 holes to be drilled. One hole has already been laser cut, but the halves may not be perfectly aligned, so drill it out using a number 70 bit. So that would be the first hole, and that would be this hole. It says drill hole for halyard block, I think. Now when we go over to the other side, it's the next page, it says the other holes need to be drilled at right angles to the first. So rotate the spar 90 degrees, drill the first pair of holes near the top of the mast using a number 60 bit. 2 holes at 5/16 and 3/8 actual, and those are 5/16 of an inch and 3/8 of an inch actual below the top of the mast. The holes are drilled 1 5/8 inch and 1 3/4 inch above the bottom of the mast. So the one at the bottom of the mast is this. See it there? Just a copper wire loop makes an eyelet for us, or a tie-off point or whatever, but that's that's at the bottom of the mast. So it sounds to me like they want us to put an eyelet at the top of the mast. The only problem is there's if we look here, it says shroud eye. Well, a shroud is the stays that holds the mast. And we're not doing that. We're doing the plates like that. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to drill fore and aft 2 holes. One of which is already in the laser cut part, which we're not using, and it's illustrated here. The other one is going to go right below it. And let me see, 5/16 and 3/8. So let me find my rule here, 16ths. So if I measure this, it is not at 5/16, it's at 3/8. Yeah. But you can't have another hole within a 1/16 of an inch of that. That's not going to work. So I imagine that that is the top hole, and then we need to draw another, or drill another hole below that, which would have been 3/8, which is only 16. What? That would only be a 1/16 of an inch apart. So that's a rather small. Zoom in a little bit here. So my ruler is in 16ths. If I drill one a 1/16 of an inch below this, it's going to be too close. So what we're going to do is we're going to drill one 1/8 inch. I'm going to drill a hole 1/8 inch below the first hole. So that's going to put us at 3/8 and roughly, say, 5/16. Right? Oh, that's kind of what they said, isn't it? No, that's not 5/16. It's 9/16. 9/16. That's what we're doing. So it's 3/8 and 9/16 rather than 5/16 and 3/8. That's the first one, no problem. Now when it comes to, yeah, if you can see right there. Sorry, I moved this kind of fast. It does say 5/16 and 3/8, but we're going to do that. And this is this direction here. This is forward. And then, of course, this is aft. Let me kind of zoom out a little bit so that I'm not straining your eyes. All right, so forward and aft, there we go. Now we do need to draw or drill. We're going to draw on here, but we're going to drill a hole for the stay plates, okay, for our shrouds. So back to the book. It looks like we're right up underneath where that simulated sheave or block is. So we're just going to come up underneath it there. It looks like to me that they have us laid out at about 3/16. And we could do that. 3/16 or 1/4 inch. 3/16 is fine. That's not a problem. That's right where this eyelet is. Except it's on the side. Right there. So we'll draw us a line here. And this is going to be our stay plates. Okay. So that's good. Next, let's see, 1 5/8 and 1 3/4. So from the base of the mast, 1 5/8. Yeah, that would be here. And then 1 3/4 would be here. And this is for the eye. It looks like they've got like a little brass plate there with 2 nails in it. What we're going to do is we're going to drill 2 holes here, but we're not going to go all the way down through the mast. So the first hole is 1 5/8. The second hole is 1 3/4, and that's from the base of our mast there. These are only like 1/4 holes or half holes. They're not going to go all the way through the mast, of course. because what we're going to put in there is going to be a wire loop, just like we see right there. So that's what's going on there. So now all we've got to do is drill this and hope that hope that I figured it out the way it needs to go. So that ought to be fun. Okay, so a lot has happened and the camera did not record. And I'm sure it's my fault. So I'm going to explain to you what I've done. And you're probably better off for it because you won't have to kind of go through the process of me trying to figure it out. So first of all, you'll see I've got some filler here. That's because I started to drill this hole and I decided that the distance was too far apart. So where we marked 3/8 and 9/16, I moved it back a 1/16 because it just didn't look right. So yeah. So we are only an 1/8 inch apart on our holes instead of 3/16. And I just used the wood filler that we made, whoops, with sawdust and a little bit of PVA glue and a drop of water. And so I filled that, and we'll sand that back off so there won't be a hole there. Now these two holes is at the top of the mast, and we drilled those completely through. And when it comes to the holes at the bottom of the mast, I use these measurements here, 1 5/8 inches and then 1 3/4 inches to drill the two holes that are only part of the way into the mast, because we're going to put an eye there, or a loop, and that would be these two holes. So you're probably asking, why are we taped to the building or the shaping jig that we have here, our spar shaping jig? And that is so that the mast won't rotate on us. Okay, so I need it held in place. So I decided to use the jig to do that. So with that secured with some masking tape there, the next thing I needed to do is find the center of the mast where we wanted to drill our holes. So what I did is I set my compass here, and I'm just going to go ahead and mark, even though we've already got the holes. I'm going to go ahead and mark and show you how I did it. So the first thing I needed to do was make sure that it was in the middle. And so measuring, we're at 7 millimeters either side. So I'm comfortable with that. So the hard part is marking a line center of your dowel. So if you set your compass to where you think you're in the center of the dowel, and let the pointy end here, opposite of the lead, the marker side, ride right on our jig, we can mark a line like so. And I know that I'm not exactly center, so we flip it around, knowing that our jig is uniform in width, and that our mast is center, and now we have two lines. So then all you have to do is measure the distance, mark the line wherever you want your hole to go, and then I just took a scribing tool here and centered it up between the lines and put me a little indentation there. Now you could keep adjusting until you get dead center, but if you got two good reference points that are close together, you should be able to get center pretty good. And once you drill the hole, all you got to do is come back with your eraser, because this is a hardwood dowel, and we can just erase all that off. Just like that. So that's how I found center. And I didn't want it to rotate, so I've got it taped down. Since these holes needed to be lined up, we want to secure that. So that's what I've done. So these two holes are all the way through, and these two holes are just part way into the mast, because we're going to put a loop there. And yeah, so now you're all caught up from me not pressing play on the camera. Oh, and then we have to wait for this to fully dry so I can sand that off. So in the meantime, we can go ahead and probably make this loop. It's not going to be in the way of anything. Okay, so the kit comes with this piece of copper wire. So there's some things that we need to do with it. One is we need to make this loop here, and then on the boom, which I also use that sawdust filler for our gooseneck here, where it attaches to it to kind of fill that gap there. We'll sand that off once it's completely dry. But there's going to be two loops that needs to go on the bottom of this as well. So the first thing we need to do is, it's a little tarnished. So I'm going to take some really fine modeling sandpaper here. We're going to brighten it up. Sand it down here. I straightened it a little bit, but now since I'm sanding it, I'm kind of bending it again. So we're going to re-straighten it. So straightening wire is actually quite easy. Copper wire is even easier. Move that out of the way. So I think I can make this work. This is just a craft stick. You could use any hardwood, or even your, say, stainless steel tweezers, if they will sit flat enough for you. And I usually use tweezers to do this, but since we're doing wooden boats, we'll try it with a piece of wood. So it's just a craft stick or a popsicle stick. And all we got to do is roll our copper wire like so. And there we are. We got a straight piece of wire. Nice. Actually, the popsicle stick works better than the stainless steel tweezers do. So now the next thing we're going to do, we need to bend a loop that fits these holes. Now, had I been smart about it, I would have drilled those holes probably a little bit closer. If you can see, my special wire bending pliers here are, I don't think that one's going to work. That might be too big. So that is a 3mm. I'm probably going to have to use a 2mm, and then we'll just adjust. So you will find pliers like this for jewelry making. And we are going to use them to bend our eyelet. Just like that. Call that easy peasy. I don't know, that might be just perfect. Well, it looks like near perfect. I do like that. I think maybe though I've used too much of the copper there. I don't think we need to use that much. Let's go ahead and make another one on the other end. Is that a little bit less? Very little, but a little bit less. Still looks good. Nice. Okay. We're going to go with that. So we need to cut it. Also, I need to hold it while I'm cutting it. Just like so. We'll check our fit. So that's what we need. So all we got to do now is really just cement it into place. Going to need some CA glue for that. So let me get all set up, and then we'll go ahead and put that in place. So that's the medium CA glue that we're using. Take that out. Watch me fool around and glue my toothpick into place there. That would be funny. Almost did. So the wood's going to really soak this stuff up, so we need to get a move on here. There we go. We are in. I'm going to add just a little extra there. Just like that. Okay, so that's good. So, let's see. I need to take this off. So I'm going to take the mast off, and then we're going to reinstall it. Let me go ahead and get that off. Okay. So with the mast off, I'm going to go ahead and hit this with this sanding stick here, where I drilled the hole and don't want it anymore. And then on the holes on the back side, I didn't do too good getting it straight. I'm just using these diamond jewelry files. We can kind of pull them left and right a little bit. Make them look like they're straight. They do make a jig. It's rather expensive. That's supposed to help you drill straight holes. It's not too bad though. It's not bad. See there? So this is part of that kit. I don't know if I showed you guys or not, but these are for jewelry making. I think they're beading tools, and they work great for working on any model. to be honest, except for the one that's kind of bent there at the end. I don't know if I did that or if it came like that. But now it's straight, so it doesn't matter. So it's a diamond surface, and it's really good for reaming out holes and just taking care of all kinds of little jobs. So, and they're cheap. It's less than $5, I think. So, yeah, find you a set of these. I got these at Hobby Lobby because that's the craft store that I have in the neighborhood. All right, so we can't even see that hole that I drilled before. Once we get the finish on it, it'll just totally disappear. And we have our loop in place there. That's dry already. So what I need to do, I need to take our bit and put it hopefully in the hole that's the straightest. And we're going to put this back in the jig. And using that drill bit, we can kind of center ourselves up, because the next hole that we drill needs to be 90 degrees to these holes. Yeah. So that's good. We're going to tape this down. Again, so it doesn't move on us. And this time I'll show you for real how we're doing this. Take my drill bit out. Go with our compass. So we're center there for some reason, but that's okay, as long as we're in the middle. And then I need to, let's see, go back to my instructions here, or my destructions. Take my ruler. I'm going to measure this out. I am at 3/4 of an inch. So we will take and measure that out. 3/4 of an inch. I guess. We could actually move that up some. I don't think that's going to matter that much, but maybe 3/4 of an inch is too much. I mean, it's just from looking at it. We might want to move that up to 5/8. Yeah, I'm going to go with 5/8. Just like that. I don't want to get confused, so I'm going to go ahead and erase the bottom one. Just like that. And now we're going to use our scribing tool, which is really sharp, very pointy. Set that right there. And we're going to use it like an awl and set our hole. And now all we got to do is drill a straight hole. that should be fun. I'm going to drill it off camera because I really need this to be a crosswise hole. Because in this hole, we're going to have on both the left and right sides the simulated bolt or nail that holds the stay plates. So we need to try to get that vertical and straight. So we'll see how we do. Now, one of the things that we need to do, as you can see here, I've got this side done. This is at the top of the mast. And we need to put like a little slot in there and make it look a little bit like a block or sheave is inside the mast. So we're going to start off by joining these two holes. Well, getting it kind of setting the pathway anyway to joining these two holes. Now they tell us that you can take an awl or something like that and press it into the wood. Well, that's not really going to work on this particular piece of wood because it's it's hardwood instead of the basswood, the soft basswood. So anyway, what I'm doing is I am going to take these diamond jewelry files here, and we're just going to file that in. Just like so. Just flip it around and file it in. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one because it's going to come out just like this other side here, I hope. Now, in order to finish up our mast, we've got a couple of parts we need to put on. One is the forestay cleat, and then the other is the halyard cleat. And that's these two little wooden pieces here. So that's the forestay. I think I'll do that one first. So I'm going to take a piece of tape. Now our mast is about 1/4 inch longer than the one on the diagram, but that's okay. The written instructions calls for 10-inch mast, and that's what we have. So I'm going to treat the top of the mast as the top, and then the bottom as the bottom. We'll just shift it back and forth to find our locations of our parts here. So I need to know about where this goes. I'll put me a piece of masking tape there. Put a piece of masking tape there. And double check. Yeah. So the forestay cleat is on the same side as our eyelet. So we need to make sure that we put it on the correct side here. Otherwise, it will not be able to do its job. flip that over. I'm gonna have to use my tweezers here. And I'm gonna have to get it set into place. And of course I've moved it too far, but sort of like dancing with a greased pig or something there. Not that I've ever danced with a greased pig, but I suspect that we're going to paint these a different color. They are so small, they are hard to sand. As you can see, that's a teeny tiny piece there. We'll let it dry and then we will sand it. And when it comes to painting, we'll just paint that a different color. A silver or something, maybe a chrome. You can paint it any color you like. All right, so we need to figure out also where the halyard cleat goes. So you've seen how I did that one, and now I'm going to go ahead and get this one done off camera. So yeah, I got that on the cleat. I will have to come back and sand it, where I used the water on it there to clean up the glue. Sand it or scrape it, either way. That'll be easy to do. But that looks good. So basically it's the same thing here for our boom. We'll have to drill some holes for the, we got 2 loops. We'll do them the same way that we did the loop on our mast. And glue those into place with CA glue. And we also have our outhaul cleat. And then we need to cut a slot in the end and drill a hole. Just make sure that you're doing all this on the bottom of the boom. So make sure your orientation's correct. And then, of course, we've got our gaff. It gets one of those half loops there. And then we need to drill a couple of holes in it. And that's it. So, I'll go ahead and do that off camera. Now, when it comes to these cleats here, our forestay cleat, you can see I kind of rounded it off there. Give it a more refined look. The same thing with the other cleat. Now, you can tell the difference here between those 2 cleats, the one that's sanded and the one that's not. Your cleat shouldn't have all those square corners on it there. So I gotta let that one dry because I just put it in place. And once it's dry, I'll sand it down too and round off those corners. Give it a nice finished appearance there. Okay, so I've been doing some thinking. That's usually when I get in trouble. At any rate, here at the top of the mast, we drilled those 2 holes and then we kind of connected them there to represent the block that's in there, the pulley for our gaff halyard. So I got to thinking, of course, if there is a pulley in there, then there has to be a pin that holds it in place. So I went ahead and drilled a hole in it there, about center, where the pulley would be, because it's got to have a pin that holds it in place, or at least I think so. So we're going to use a little bit of this brass rod left over from making our tiller for that. I'm going to need some CA glue here. We're going to need CA glue for other things too. So, at any rate, let's put this into place here. That's probably way too much. All right. So all we got to do is pull it through till it stops. There we go. Now I need a piece of paper towel or something. And we'll just take off most of that excess there. Just like so. So now we need to be careful. We're going to cut it flush. Just like so. Well, that wasn't very flush, but we cut it. I was looking for my cup there. So now we have our pin in place. All I'm going to do is clean it up. It being brass, we can file it down flush. I don't know why I'm whispering. Well, we're going to have to re-sand right there. Yeah, I got way too much sticking out right there. Wear your safety glasses or some sort of glasses. You don't want to shoot yourself in the eye. I just think this is going to be more authentic. As long as I don't mess the mast up. I like that. And it's okay if it sticks just a little bit proud, it's fine. It doesn't have to be flush. Yeah, what do you think? Very nice. Okay. So now the next thing we need to do, we've got our stay plates here to put on. And this is going to get complicated real quick. We actually need them to kind of move. But we gotta get the pins in place. Or the nails. So I've already cut these. As you can see, they are teeny tiny. So I think what I need to do is find my beeswax. Okay, so the idea here is if I put beeswax on it, maybe the CA glue won't hold it. I don't want it to glue it into place. I don't know if I'm getting anything on there or not. Okay. Just needs to be a little waxy film there. How am I going to get that in? If I can pick it up. Boy. Stick around. You may see me lose this. I think it'll fit in the hole. Yeah. All right, so it's in the hole. Need to hold on to that. Should have pulled out them pliers a long time ago. Live and learn. Alrighty. I'm gonna put this one in while you're watching. So if I make a mistake, it's always on the first one that you make a mistake anyway. Hopefully the beeswax is working. Yeah. To get it in the hole there. Ah, what an operation. All right, so it's in place. Boy, is it in place. Okay. There it is. So all I got to do is replicate that on the other side. The one thing that you want to be careful of is these two nails that's holding our plates in place are in the same hole. So you've got to cut it short, or yeah, one will try to push the other one out. You won't get it fully seated. So just, you want to check that and make sure that you're okay. I'm going to keep moving this a little bit here just in case. I think the beeswax is working if I actually got it on there. So I'm going to go ahead and put the other one in. All right, there we are. We got them both in place. And they still swivel. So we're in good shape there. Maybe the beeswax did something, maybe it didn't, I don't know, but I think so. All right, so I have given our boom and the gaff and the mast a coat of the satin, clear satin here, the MS 4972. It's just one coat. And I also went in and painted these cleats. I painted them silver. Not sure if I like the silver or not. You can paint them brass or black or whatever you want, or you could just leave them in the wood. But I thought a little bit of color there would be nice. Something other than just the raw wood. And I'm not painting the masts and the gaff and the boom a specific color. I'm just staining it, or not staining, but just clear coating. I'll get it right here in a second. because I like the look of the wood. Now you can paint them any color you want. You want to paint them white, that's fine. So, or blue or black, whatever you like. There is something that we need to put on, is the chafing pad. This is actually the last piece that we need. And I cut this out of some packing paper here. Now this is where the boom rides against the mast. So there's a little pad there for it. So we got to put that on. So what we have here is some warm water and some PVA glue. Now the PVA glue that I'm using is good old Elmer's school glue. It works great. And we're going to put this in here and just let it soak. I'm going to let it soak up the PVA in the water there. So while that's happening, we do need to figure out exactly where it needs to go. I'm going to use a piece of masking tape here to locate that. I think my masking tape's too big. That's fine. That'll work. That'll work for us. Because we are going to put it right there. And we do need to make sure that it's on the aft side of the mast, not on the fore, because it obviously that would be the wrong side. Check our. If I can get it out of there now. Without tearing it. Crinkling it up. I'm having trouble getting underneath it. That's a problem. It should be plenty wet now. So they do give us dimensions for this piece. What I did, I'll show you after I get it set where it needs to go. With a little bit of luck here, where's my brush? Here we go. Alright, so my cheese is sliding off my cracker here. It's gonna fight me, of course. So funny, it wrinkles up so easily, trying to get it out of the cup there. But it does not want to bend for me. On the mast. Huh. It'll work. Just gotta be patient. It's not like decals. We're kind of getting there. Kind of getting there. So anyway, I'm going to glue this up. I will get it to settle in place. And of course I keep moving it around. Then we're going to paint it. You need to paint it like a red brown or something like that. That's what they recommend. I think originally it was just like a piece of metal, a piece of tin, either copper or galvanized or something like that. So whatever if you want yours to be brass, just be brass. So here we are, mostly dry. It only takes about 15-20 minutes for it to dry, really, because it is rather thin. Now you can paint it, do whatever you want with it. At this point, though, before we decide to paint it or whatever, I'm going to use the satin clear. Seal it in. Because we don't want to reactivate the the glue. I had a hard enough time getting it to lay down. So this will protect it and affix it to our mast. Permanently. So it should be impossible to knock it off there. Don't want to lose our pad there. So okay, so I haven't decided. I don't know if I'm going to paint it or if I'm going to leave it brown. We could just leave it brown. The instructions call out a red-brown to paint it. But it looks good. All right, so that's it for the mast. Okay, so we did manage to get that pad on, that wire, the chafing pad. If you look closely at the very end here, you'll see that I actually put that pad on the wrong side of the mast. I put it just above the cleat there, which is exactly what I told you not to do. So I had to peel it off and ended up having to cut another piece of paper for that. And then I put it on the right side, which is the aft. That's where it needs to go. Now I went ahead and painted mine copper. So, I don't know if I'm going to leave it that way or not. Maybe. Probably. So, up to you. Sometimes it was a copper plate or a galvanized, in later times, galvanized steel plate. If you wanted to do a weathered copper or something like that, you got that kind of tarnished gray-green going on, so you have different options there. I think I'll just leave mine just a bright copper there. And also we finished the boom, and that looks good. And of course our gaff. Look, I was about to call it something else. So the only metal work that's on the gaff is this eye right there for hoisting the sail. So, and that's good. Now,
All these pieces have a coat of the clear satin on it. And I'm not going to go in and rub it down because I think maybe that little bit of roughness, especially on the gaff, might be kind of key when we go to do our lacing to kind of hold the sail and everything into place so it's not slipping around. So it's just a thought there. Okay, so that will do it for this part. So special thanks to all my subscribers. It's because of you guys that I keep making these videos. And I hope that you enjoyed this one. And if you're new to the channel, I hope I earned your subscription. So leave a comment, like the video if you enjoyed it, and I guess I'll see you next Wednesday. So until then, you stay safe.